First, I would like to talk to you briefly about the history. I would like to talk about the application of that notion, some of what I have experienced and contributed to, nothing to do with Africa, and really, because it was not there in North America, had little to do with North America and South America. But still, they call them world wars. And what they learned from these wars, well, first of all, that war is not healthy for children and other living things. But they also learned that human beings can do horrible things to other human beings if they consider them their enemy. In fact, they learned that human beings can do inhumane things to other human beings if they consider them enemies. So they decided that as a planet, we need to come together in at least one organization, and that organization is now known as the United Nations. And the United Nations has the ability to consider your country a legitimate nation state or not. But also, because of the horror of those two wars, they thought about what it means to treat another human being with dignity and respect, even if that human being was your enemy. This is the birth of the discourse that we now know as universal human rights. In fact, they came out with a document in 1948 called the Declaration of Universal Human Rights. But this is not where human rights began. We did not start to think about what it means to treat human beings with honor and dignity just because there was a war in Europe. All philosophies and all religions or faith traditions, down to the most remote village, thought and still think about what it means to treat human beings with dignity. So where our current discussion may take off from the discussions at the United Nations in the middle of the 20th century, we can go back to our own traditions and gather evidence of the importance of human rights long before the Declaration was even written. Every human tradition considers what it means to treat humans with honor and dignity, starting with one basic principle. And that is, who is a human being? How do we determine what makes us human? In Islam, we have an interesting story about a conversation, as it were, between God, Allah, the creator of the universe and all that is within it, and angels, who, by the way, are themselves created from light. And in this conversation, Allah says, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Indeed, I will create on the earth a khalifa, an agent, a moral agent, a representative of God's will on the earth. This is the meaning of human being in Islam, a khalifa, an agent of the will of God on the earth. Now, I would love to follow this story between Allah and the angels, because in this story, the angels actually have a question that they give to Allah regarding this plan to create a khalifa. And their question really is prophetic in that they say, would you create one who will destroy, create chaos and confusion? And what they ask has, in fact, come true. We do create chaos, havoc, and confusion. But Allah's plan went forth anyway, and human beings were created from an atom of dirt. When the human was created, Allah ordered all the unseen beings, that would be angels and jinn, created from smokeless fire, to bow down to this human being. And Iblis, who was a jinn, that is Satan or Shaitan, refused to bow. He said, Ana khayrun minhu. I'm better than him. He is created from dirt, and I am created from smokeless fire. So, Shaitan refused to bow to the human creature. This sets up the principal ingredients for every act and every thought where one human being treats another human being in less than humane ways. It's called zulm in Arabic, or oppression. The root cause of zulm or oppression is when one person, one human being, considers him or herself khayru min, better than another human being. For whatever reason, class or caste or gender or level of education or color that you wear or shoes that you have on. If for any reason you consider another human being less than you, consider yourself khayru minhu, you are in fact repeating the same formula that Satan practiced when he disobeyed God. Think about it. Ana khayru minhu. I'm better because I'm this or that, or because I disagree with them, or because I do things differently from them, I'm better. Not I'm different and the world is full of diversity, but I am better. To consider yourself better than another human being for any reason is the beginning of the path of zulm, oppression, or inhumane treatment to another human being. Now this fundamental, what we call cosmological principle in Islam has inspired me in my work on Islam and women. In 1995, I went to the Beijing Conference for Women in China. There were more Muslim women present than at any of the conferences before and any of the conferences since. And we noticed that there were so many Muslim women. So we decided. I was not surprised that they did not agree. And this is why. Two very strong voices, either Islam or human rights. Specifically, remove Islam. The people who represent, when I say we, I came with an organization and there were a number of patriarchal Islam, or you have human rights. And we were in the middle. We were in the middle, and we refused to give up our human rights. Between Islam and human rights. Between Islam and human rights. Had bought into that more than 20 years ago. And in that 20 years, when you discuss Islam and any other topic, you are a Khalifa. You were created as a human being to be an agent of the will of Allah on the earth. In other words, when you discuss Islam, you must take agency with regard to the definition of Islam. Muslims are always telling you, in Islam you cannot do this. In Islam you must do this. We don't have that in Islam. And what we did was to question whose Islam was it. If a man can rape a little girl and pay blood money, and that's called Islam, do you believe in that? Do you believe in that? No. And guess what? When you claim agency with regard to Islam, you can reject that. In other words, Islam belongs to those who believe it, not just to old men with beards. It belongs to any of you who want to claim it. So between 1995 and 2013,